Hello and welcome to Happy Health Hour. I am surrounded by my three of my favorite doctors. Dr. M is here. Hi, Maria. How are you?
Good. Thank you.
Dr. P is here. Perith, how are you doing?
Very good. Thank you.
And Dr. B is here. Dalton, how's things?
I'm well.
You've got a very loud tie there. Is there any significance in that?
Yeah, it's Santa Claus. It's Christmas time. It's my Santa Claus tie.
Okay. Are you going to wear that every day until
Oh,
January?
no. I've got about 40 of them, so I wear a different one every day. Yeah.
Okay, well, on another show, we'll expect to see another one then.
You will.
So this week's show is about dementia. And Dr. P, let me start with you. I think the question that our viewers want to know is, what is dementia? Can you give a brief outline? But I sort of want to know, am I going to get dementia, Dr. P?
You won't be able to get it anymore.
Oh, this is really intriguing.
You don't have to worry about it. And you don't worry about it anymore. And you will forget the question soon.
Okay. So, because you're not going to help me with my personal situation, then let's just go on to the definition of dementia. Can you sort of give us a broad landscape of the definition of dementia? Because I have a feeling that I know that there are different types of dementia.
Dementia is a vast term. It's an umbrella term that encompasses many, many kinds of cerebral dysfunction. And when I say cerebral, let's say mental activities, they get affected. Mostly memory. That's how we understand dementia. But there's more to it. Dementia is not just loss of memory. It's a change in cognition, how you perceive the world. It's your orientation to the world, orientation of time and space. Sometimes loss of certain senses. Strange as it may sound, it may begin first. The first symptom of it may be loss of smell, loss of olfactory sensations. Very subtle things that start happening, and that is, simply described dementia. There are many kinds of dementia, which I'll let you figure out. It is a fascinating field, and we have just begun to uncover it and scratch the surface. Let me stop there and pass it back to you so you can play with it.
Actually, just give us a quick bullet point then on the different types of dementia. Then you said there are a vast number of dementia. Give us a bullet point on types of dementia.
So the first one, which we commonly call Alzheimer's, is again a term that itself may be an umbrella term, but usually associated with senescence, getting old, the brain is no longer functioning. The old theory is that there's some inflammation in the brain, some collection of certain neurofibrillary tangles, some proteins in the brain that kind of crowd out the neuronal inside the cells that are in the brain. So that is one that is considered called Alzheimer's, but that itself is a vast term, and I guarantee you'll find different kinds of Alzheimer's too. The other one commonly seen is vascular dementia, seen in patients with strokes. We see in patients with small vessel disease, mostly, I believe, diabetics, smokers. Actually, it's far more common than we realize. But that is another, and it's slightly different. It doesn't present itself as just loss of memory. It may present as loss of orientation, confusion, a little recall of faces rather than recall of names. It's different. It's a different animal altogether. The others I can't remember right now, but let me try to. Another one is what is used to be called dementia of the young. Then there is then you have what is called Pick's disease. That's another particular kind of dementia, and I guarantee you the classification has not ended, because recently I just read that dementia is nothing but diabetes, a kind of diabetes of the brain. It's called diabetes type 3. So I'll just throw that in,
Okay.
tangle for you right there, and I'll pass it on to our
Okay.
other honored guests.
Dr. M, this sounds even more complicated than I imagined. So, how do you know when somebody's got dementia? Because there's not going to be an aha moment, right? Is there going to be a long period where the patient has dementia, but you don't know that they have dementia?
Yeah, it's a good question. It really it can start out with very simple. I can't remember names. I can't remember where I was going. Walking into rooms, can't remember what I was looking for, leaving things undone, forgetting that you had an appointment. These kind of things are sort of, indicators. There are other types, as Dr. P was saying, there are other types of dementia. I'm just going to stress one right now, and that's alcoholic dementia. It's a huge problem. And because people start out early with that, and then they don't realize as time goes on, they're starting to lose their memory. They're starting to become a little bit behaviorally, if that's a word, not too good with the way they speak, their conduct. So there can be behavioral changes that happen with the dementia. That could be in any of the subtypes. But there's the beginnings are where there's loss of recollection, very common, or people start what's called confabulating. They can just start making things up and stories and things that don't really make sense or irrelevant. Changes in senses, as Dr. P said, loss of smell is common, even loss of taste or strange sounds in the ears. Our sensory perceptive means and mechanisms can start to get fouled up. People start losing their way. They can't remember how to get around, and then or neglect to do certain things that they used to do. They used to enjoy. A lot of little changes that go on that might not be perceived by the person who is actually, suffering with the problem, but other people will start noticing. She keeps repeating the same thing, or he repeats himself over and over, and keeps forgetting that we had appointments or this or that. These kind of things are all relevant in the early signs of a person losing their cognition and even some of their balance and their ability to stand up and hold themselves straight.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Dr. B, just staying on this subject of detection. It's going to be hard for you doctors to know exactly when your patients have got dementia, because you only get to see them for short periods of time, and then there's a long period in between. So this is hard for you to detect, right?
Yes, by yourself, yes. But in general, what happens with somebody who's having a problem with dementia, it's not the patient himself that comes in and says, "Oh, I have dementia." It's their family member who comes in with them and gives specific instances. This is what's going on. I think one of the major clues, as Dr. Maria was saying, is they keep repeating the same questions over and over and forgetting the answers that they heard. But there's also several entities that mimic dementia that we have to differentiate. It is very common for the older population to get what we call benign senescent forgetfulness, for instance, which is not dementia. We all lose some memory. We call it senior moments or whatever, where we might forget the name of a movie actor that we know very well. or we might forget where we laid our car keys. And that becomes more frequent as you age. And if you're not careful, that could mimic dementia. There's also something called pseudo-dementia, which is depression masking or presenting as dementia. And when you treat the depression, the so-called dementia or the memory loss of whatever is going on with them seems to clear up when you identify that they had the depression. And there's other things too. Some people who have been diagnosed with Parkinson's, in fact, don't have Parkinson's. They have what we call Lewy body dementia, which is also called pseudo-Parkinson's. So they present to all the world like they have Parkinson's with the stiffness and everything, but they don't respond to Parkinson medicines. So all of those things are very subtle and different. When you suspect dementia, we give either one of two tests. For years, we used what was called the mini mental status examination. More recently, we use the Montreal cognitive test, the MOCA, MOCA. And all of those are a series of questions. You score, it's 30 points. And they're pretty straightforward questions for somebody who doesn't have dementia. What's today's date? What's the day of the week? What are we sitting in now? A doctor's office or whatever. They show you pictures of animals and ask you to name the animals. They ask you to count down from 7 from the number 60. A number of very basic things. Then they ask you to remember 3 objects and then try to remember them again 5 minutes later when you ask again. All of those things add up at the end of the day, and 26 points or less out of 30, you have a fairly strong index of suspicion that they have dementia.
Got it.
At that point, you have to take a workup to make sure that they don't have some other metabolic problem that's causing these losses. I'll kick it back to you, but that's it in a nutshell.
Okay, Dr. P, back to you. What causes dementia? Can you help us? Because that would really help people if they know what the causes are. They can seek to avoid things that cause dementia.
Well, it's like Donald Rumsfeld. There are known unknowns and there are unknown unknowns. And there are unknown knowns and there are known knowns. And I don't know after this because I forgot what I was going to say. Because Donald Rumsfeld confused the bejesus out of me. But let's try to simplify Donald Rumsfeld. We have found certain issues which we think are part of the problem. One is inflammation. Some kind of inflammation is going on in the neurons. As Dr. M has already pointed out, chemical injury, alcoholism definitely affects. Blood flow reduction definitely affects. Some kind of scar tissue forms as the blood flow after a stroke, the neurons are not able to function. Those we understand. But then it's association with certain proteins inside the neurons, and we are trying to figure out how that correlates. Is it a product? Is it a cause of an underlying problem? Or is it the problem itself? It's not very clear. The neurons are not able to utilize glucose, and that's why it's called diabetes mellitus times 3. Some reason, the only food in the adult for the neurons is glucose. Now, looking at the population, it seems that a lot of neurons are not getting the glucose they need at the highest level in our society. And that was a joke. Don't take it too seriously. But somehow the glucose is not being absorbed into the neurons. What is it that has happened? We're trying to figure out. Is there something with the pumps, with the insulin effect? Is there some other chemical? And so other treatments have been tried. For example, when you're a newborn, the mother's milk contains ketone bodies. So patients have been tried on ketone bodies, which is seen with coconut oil. There are ketone bodies in it. So sometimes those patients respond. There are certain proteins we can test, tau amyloid, in the bloodstream itself, which may indicate that there is dementia is of high likelihood. Then there are now proteins that are being touted, pun intended, that can come before tau, and these are probably the pre-tau. So then that will be pre-touted tests that we are. You're supposed to smile at that pun, but anyway. So these are complex issues. I wish I could tell you everything that we know right now, but there are a lot of areas that we are figuring out. Somehow the functioning of the neurons is affected, and it's diverse array of factors that are coming together. As we figure out more and more, I'm sure modern science will keep us updated, and before that, modern investigative practices will keep us updated, because these tests are coming out even before we know what is exactly the problem and then what is the solution. Last thing, there are some approaches to treat with antibodies, the dementia with antibodies, infusions of antibodies. I do not know how effective they are. They are probably very mildly effective, but since we don't have great treatments for dementia, it is as good or as bad as any other.
Okay. Dr. M, I'm going to ask you to stay on this same question because it feels like there's a lot more to unpack. Risk factors. What are the risk factors of dementia, rather as opposed to going into the neurology, brain neurology? What are the risk factors that lay people like me could understand? You know, diabetes, for example, was mentioned. What are the other risk factors?
Absolutely. You know, we have many toxins around, and one of the biggest is air pollution. And a lot of people don't even think about that. So we have an issue with having some serious air pollution in many parts of the world, and which is just taking in toxic materials. And one of the most toxic is in the air is that which is coming off of rubber tires, which are not really rubber, they're plastic tires. So that in the air, we take in this plastic and other material. It's all artificial material that actually gets into our system and can affect the brain. That is just one big thing that a lot of people have not really touched upon. But air pollution is a big one.
Right.
Obesity. Obesity is a very big problem, pun intended. There's a lot released from the adipose cells, the fat cells. They're called cytokines, and they can get into the brain and reduce blood flow to the brain, which can affect neural and synaptic connectivity and all that. So it starts to affect people, and they don't realize it. Time is passing and things are changing in the brain. Head trauma. People get hit in the head, fall down, get hit, blunt trauma by, get punched 1,000,000 times in a boxing ring. We know some of the boxers and what has happened to them after having themselves hit thousands, if not millions of times in the head. It's just like excessive. The brain is, it's a delicate organ. It's very strong, but it's delicate. And if people are hit over and over again, or involved in accidents, or they're perhaps players on a field, football players, we all know they are suffering with, like the boxers and so forth, traumatic brain injuries all over the place. So that's a big problem. It's a huge problem. People who have sleep apnea, they're getting reduced blood flow to the brain. They're having hypertension. They're having reduced oxygen to the brain. That is contributory. People who are depressed, as Dr. Benson mentioned before, depression and so forth, that can lead to a lot of changes within the structure of the brain. People are exposed to drugs in every sense of the word. Every drug is fair game for causing trouble in the brain, because your body has to detoxify drugs, and if those drugs are getting into the brain in any shape or form, that can lead to some disruptions in cognition, balance, you name it. Alcohol, as I mentioned before, is a big contributor, a huge contributor, probably one of the biggest, because most people think that drinking is okay. Drinking is not okay. The science is in. We have everything from the National Academy of Science, Engineering, and Medicine. We have British journals. We've got American journal. We've got a lot of entries that have updated the science that alcohol is really a big drug, and it is a big problem. And the medical profession has been endorsing it all along. However, what we're finding right now, this year, as a matter of fact, again, publications have been out and I've looked at them, and it's not a good picture for the person who thinks that they can take a drink on a daily basis. Even small, like little binges or debauches, they are trouble. So my advice to my friends, all of you on this panel and out there, please choose not to take alcohol. You can have fun without it. So it's one of the biggest factors that is contributing to breakdown of brain. Really is. And the good news, if you stop now, your brain can restore, if you don't stop, I'm afraid you're in trouble. So alcohol should be off.
Morning. Okay. So thank you, Dr. M. Dr. B, there must be some things we can do to protect ourselves against dementia. What are the protective factors? I'm sort of thinking that keeping your brain active and your body active, physically active and mentally stimulated.
Absolutely.
Good way. Yeah, please tell us more.
So generally the people who maintain a high degree of education, bilingual people have a great deal of cognitive reserve. They have less of a tendency to develop dementia. People who exercise regularly, and so exercise should be a regular part, even as we age, of your daily activities. All of those things, and doing challenging thing. I always tell my patients, do crossword puzzles, do things that will stimulate your mind as much as you can, because we haven't touched upon it. There is a certain amount of dementia that is genetically based too, so that we have to be very cognizant of that. And so there are some families in which Alzheimer's disease runs in the family. All of those things are something to be aware of. I wanted to tap back a little bit more about our environment. There are a lot of medicines that we as physicians try to get our patients off of because there have been studies showing now that they cause dementia. Some of the more common are most of the sleep agents that are out on the market can cause dementia. And there are over-the-counter medications such as Benadryl, which is used as a sleep aid in a lot of different formulations. Benadryl, or diphenhydramine, can cause dementia. So you just have to be aware as a consumer that while a lot of these things have been improved for our use, using them long-term or even in some cases short-term can lead to memory loss and dementia. So if you maintain good health, that is your strongest defense against developing dementia.
Physical and mental health. You mentioned the term cognitive reserve. So for everybody who doesn't understand the term cognitive reserve, can you explain that to everybody?
So cognitive reserve would mean that during your life, you have built up a fund of knowledge over a number of different topics that you're constantly questioning to learn. And people develop a cognitive reserve in that they begin to be able to spit back, okay, for instance, I'm a history buff, and I can tell you a lot about both English and American history. And I have long conversations with people about those topics. Cognitive reserve would mean that that's stored in my cognition, and I'm able to recall it, and I'm able to use it to keep my mind sharp. So that's what cognitive reserve really refers to.
Absolutely fascinating. And Dr. Emma, I'll come to you in a moment because I want to hear about diet, and I want to hear about social connection. But Dr. P, coming to you, is there more? Because I always like to get a geopolitical over time and space answer from you. Is there more dementia now than there was a few hundred years ago, or is it that we just pay more attention to it?
So dementia also has social, political, cultural reverberations, if I may use the word. America has been blessed with a few leaders in the past 30, 40 years who have had dementia, and we know how good they were when they were functional or non-functional, and they actually did a pretty good job. Probably did better than when they were healthy and their memory was good. Again, that's controversial. I'll just let it slide by. It was supposed to be a joke, so don't take it too seriously. There are other issues. Let me just add a few more things. It's not just so Dr. Maria doesn't want people to take alcohol, but single malt is not considered alcohol. So I'm just going to say you can have a little single malt. I just wanted to get that in quickly. So you can have a little single malt.
I think single malt is alcohol.
No.
I just want to say out loud, single malt is alcohol. It's just I just think your standards are quite high, and you have taste. That's the difference, but it's still alcohol.
I tried. I had to try. Okay, this is for notch one up for a valiant effort to get that in. By the way, there are drugs that can make you behave like you're demented, as Dr. B has already pointed out. But there is a chemical called acetylcholine esterase in the brain. There are drugs that can block it. And one of the things we need to do when someone's memory is going down is to make sure those medicines are out. Some medicines given for the bladder, for certain other conditions, we need to start taking them off. And I have seen that with very clear, marked results. Also think about things like cannabis, other drugs that we use for fun. They can affect memory, and Dr. Scanziano brought this to my attention recently, so I didn't know that. So my cannabis days are over. I can't have it anymore.
You have to stop smoking.
If you change that with the single malt, you're probably okay.
That's right. I won't remember. It'll be more tasteful. So let's come back to, again, Dr. B had pointed out how we can try to approach it and treat it. I would just add a few more things. Of course, physical activity, because physical activity increases the blood flow to the brain. Mental activity, challenging the brain. I would bring your attention to the so-called Sanskrit effect. Chanting, trying to memorize, increasing your powers of memory again and again has been shown to increase the size of your hippocampus. That's a certain area of the brain that is supposed to store your memory, and then improve the connections of the neurons. So do not give up. My memory is going away. I think the biggest problem of dementia is complacency and laziness that we have acquired as a society. We are not pushing ourselves hard enough. We need to learn to push our neurons a little bit more, make them jog a little bit, and literally, and that is critical. Then there is something called emotional health, emotional reserve. We need to find a place there where we are happy and we are at peace, and we are able to relate with other humans, because one of the first things that gets affected when you have dementia is your relationships and your communication. One of the first signs of dementia, in fact, is a patient who's no longer interested in himself or his neighbors, or starts seeing things about their neighbors or their family which don't exist. For example, they're stealing my jewelry, they stole my tools, all this. suddenly paranoia comes in. And so this may be one of the early signs. So social relationships, social support is a very important part of it. It is not only curative, but also part of the management of dementia. And then overall, a psychic balance and healing, which is not just meditation, which is not just chanting, but a state of happiness and health, which can probably help the brain find its poise. That is just my opinion. I don't know if it has been studied, but I can tell you people who use their brain learn more languages, find life exciting, do new things, are always seeing every moment as brand new, like children. Then they will probably not have dementia most commonly. Geopolitics of dementia, of course, as you know, drugs are big, and healthcare is the next geopolitics. Healthcare, along with nutrition and education, is how we will control others. And so all the drugs that are coming are supposed to be the great inventions. But there are old-fashioned ways of healing, and Dr. Maria would know better about the botanical ways, using certain herbs to help heal our brain. Brain food. So almonds, I tell my patient to soak raw almonds in water overnight and eat them. That's great brain food. Turmeric is another great brain food. Coconut oil. And, these are simple things that you want to nourish your brain with. Let me stop because time is running out and I'm more worried about it than you are. So let me give it back to you.
Thank you, Dr. B. Okay, well, you said Dr. M. Dr. M, two things I want you to talk about. I want you to talk about diet, but I also want you to talk about social connection. Do people with a wider social circle are less likely to suffer from dementia than people with a very small social circle?
Okay, do you want me to talk about social first, and then dietary?
Diet. Yeah, because I'm interested in the social connection bit.
Okay, so one can have a single friend and do perfectly fine. So the size of your social connections is kind of relative. If you have several people who can stimulate you, or you're stimulated with on a regular basis, that's probably a better setup to have in your life, rather than just one person in your life, because anything can happen with one person. That person might not be there for a time period. So having multiple connections is certainly more stimulating. There are a lot of different things that every individual has to offer, and then you'll have different things that you're doing with these different people. Or if you meet in groups, a lot of group meetings with, like, say, the girls getting together or the guys getting together without getting smashed or blasted with weed and alcohol. Okay, let's put that out of the equation. So people getting together, talking, and exchanging ideas. Like we have here at our wellness center, we have some book clubs. We have gatherings for canning. We have gatherings for meditation. People gathering together, like-minded, and all that. They're all very important for people to engage and to feel, like this is worth it. Life is good, and exchanges. So having multiple exchanges in your life, that is people and different activities, is really a better way. But there are certain people who, by themselves, they do fine. But those are the exceptions.
Yeah.
As far as all the activity that goes along with multiple connections, that's all very nice, as long as they're healthy connections, right? If you hang out with negative people, or some people, they're aggravating you or whatever, you need to kind of, move away from that kind of adverse type or something that's not going to contribute to your mental well-being. So activities with good energies, good people is important. And some people, they need to be counseled, they need to go to their therapists and so forth to help them. So, that's always helpful. Some find that their therapists really help them through their lives. So that's great. So the different outlets people have and should have. As far as food is concerned, that's a huge subject. Again, we try to get on to the salient, features of the diet that would make sense and, certainly help people with their cognition. So the first thing you have to take out, if you are concerned about your mind, your brain, or even if you're not, it should be that fast foods, ultra processed foods, as we've discussed before, should kind of go away. You need to get that out of your head, literally, and start thinking along the right lines. That's clean food, organic food that is well prepared. Less outside restauranting, because when you go to outside places, they put all kinds of things in your food, many of which include seed oils, too much salt, too much sugar, and other additives and things that people don't even know that are in the food. It's, oh, this tastes good. But how many people ask their waiter or waitress, what's in this food? Can you give me a list of what's included, all inclusive? Nobody's doing that. I mean, that it's either made of milk, cheese, or it's a piece of meat, or it's a piece of bread or something. That's it. They don't know the other components. So it's safest to eat at home as often as possible, if not all the time, and prepare good quality organic foods. And what really helps the gut and the brain are foods, again, they're fresh. Plants do wonders for the brain, good plants, including hemp seeds, by the way. Hemp seeds have omega fats, they're protein, they have antioxidants in them. So taking hemp seeds is not a bad thing. We were talking about cannabis before. I'm not talking about smoking it, but taking the seed is not a bad thing. All your omega fats in the other seeds, including chia, flax, and walnuts in the nut family. Walnuts are really nice for the brain. They have a lot of magnesium. Pistachios, great for the brain, have manganese. It's another wonderful element that we need. Selenium, very important for brain and other organ function in your Brazil nuts. So there's a whole line of nuts that are out there that have lots of good ingredients for the brain. Another grouping food would be fermented stuff. So people who love kimchi, sauerkraut, things that kombucha, tempeh, miso soup, and other fermented or canned or pickled things. They have organisms in them, they're cultured, and that's very important for brain function. When the organisms are right, there's a gut-brain connection. So when your gut is happy, your brain is going to benefit. So there are actually signals that come from the gut to the brain. So when we're all happy down here and we have good bacteria, that really helps keep the brain functioning very well. And cultures that have fermented or cultured food in their diets, they are generally in good condition. The other grouping would be your spices and herbs. If you include all the wonderful spices that happen in the culture that Dr. P comes from, your cumin, your turmeric, your cardamom, your cinnamon, clove, asafoetida, I mean, there's a whole host of things there and chilies, which can really help keep the brain happy because they contain different nutrients for the brain, which start in the gut and then it goes to the brain. Again, the gut is very happy with those type of things. And when you talk about herbs, like rosemary and oregano and basil and all of those things. The allium family, the garlics, the onions, they're really substantially exceptional for the gut, which is very good for the brain. I'm just touching upon certain groupings. If you talk about fruits and things like that, some of the best fruits are your berries. Everything in the berry family, all of them, they're all rated high, and preferably organic. The brain foods, blueberry, strawberry, boysenberry, blackberry, all of those things are great for your brain. Pomegranate is great for the brain and increases circulation to the brain and body. And then you have, coming away from the fruits, then you have things like tea. Tea is very good. Coffee, as long as the coffee is of good quality and it's taken on its own. You don't want to put a lot of things in it. If you put stuff in it, like if you put cow's milk or half and half, you ruin the effect. Some people like to put coconut milk. It's not a bad thing. Okay. But a little coffee, not a bad thing, not a lot of coffee, because each cup can contain anywhere from 100 to more than 100 milligrams of caffeine. Decaffeinated is not caffeine free. So just a note on that one. And a decaffeinated cup of regular size coffee might be about 35 milligrams of caffeine. Maximum caffeine one should have in a day would be 400 milligrams. I don't recommend more than 200. It's too stimulating and it can overdo the brain. Another category would be the fish. Fish, very, very helpful. Those fatty fish that we enjoy out there and that are good for the brain, sardines, salmon, cod, haddock, tuna. And tuna, you should try to stay away from the albacore. They sell a lot of albacore out there, but it has a lot of mercury. So we've got to be careful with mercury because metals are another problem that can lead to dementia and brain dysfunction. So these are things I just wanted to hit upon. People who eat a lot of meat and not a lot of vegetables, I'm afraid they're not feeding their brains so well. So if you're going to be eating any meat, it should be clean. It should be well made and not on very high heat because then there are carcinogens in high heat with meat. And you should have a lot of vegetables with your meats and so forth. And stay low on the sugar because sugar is just too stimulating and can cause all kinds of havoc. Even though the brain requires sugar, but it takes it in the complex form best, and that is broken down to a simple sugar, which then eventually gets to the brain and nourishes it.
Dr. M, that is a fantastic speed through all the food groups. I'm just going to tell people out there who are listening to this or watch the recording of this 10, 15 minutes, just transcribe it. We have the transcribes anyway, but just make a note of this and these are the foods to eat. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Dr. M. What a privilege to listen to you whiz through these food groups in literally 10 minutes. Amazing. Thank you. Dr. B, we got 45 seconds left for you to just wrap up this week's episode. Just give us the key takeaways from what all of you said about what is dementia, how do you recognize it, et cetera, et cetera.
I have a few things to add too. So Dalton, you have 25 seconds.
Okay. Well, go ahead.
I'm going to let you add because what I was going to bring up is one topic we didn't talk about, and that is the caretakers, people who are the caretakers and the stress that comes with being a caretaker of somebody that has dementia. And that is one of the biggest stresses that one can do because you see the loved one who's slipping away and they become almost infantile in their need to be taken care of, and a tremendous amount of stress. They lose sleep. They don't eat. They don't take care of themselves, and at the end of the day, they do very poorly themselves. And there's some good books out there. I would recommend a book called The 36-Hour Day by Nancy L. Mace that talks about the caretakers and what they go through and helps people understand how to approach it. So with that, I will end my talk. And Dr. Singh?
Yes. So I just wanted to bring everyone to attention to the fact that you can smoke hemp. Dr. Scanziana said hemp is good
No.
and effective.
No.
When you're having a single malt,
No.
smoke the hemp, which will balance. They'll balance each other out. But let me go back quickly to
Hemp
the radiation.
seeds.
I know hemp seed. Smoke the hemp seed. Okay. So smartphones, electronics. Do not sleep, children. Don't sleep with the cell phone next to your head. It is not good for you. A lot of radiation. Art. Those who play music, they get less dementia. Those who are deeply into art, they will get less dementia. It is a good way for the brain to heal. Another way for a holistic approach. New treatments are coming, but remember, primarily it seems that dementia may be a metabolic disorder where the mitochondria are not functioning well. There is some insulin metabolic issue. There may be a lipid metabolic issue. Carbohydrates are not being broken properly. New things are coming. Healthcare is changing rapidly. And last but not the least, a friend of mine who's doing a lot of research into mental health, they are using magnets to heal the brain. So again, more to come. We'll talk about it. And so I will throw it right back to you. And let me go and smoke my hemp seed.
So grind them down first.
I'm not smoking anything. So what did you say, Dr. B?
I said he should grind them down before he smokes them. So, make a fine little powder. They smoke better that way.
I will lean on your expertise in this matter, Dalton.
Okay, we're done.
Okay. We are done. Thank you so much for a super informative episode. This week's episode on dementia, and from Videra University and from all the doctors, it's goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Alan.
Bye.